inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished.
Welcome to the Gridiron Breakdown.
We don't have a real name for it? Well, that'll give you media guys something to come up with.
What's your assignment?
Kill the quarterback. Hit the tight end so hard his girlfriend dies. Kill everything.
The football podcast for the fans, by the fans, where we discuss the X's and O's of each week's premier football game.
We've got to be the dumbest team in America in terms of playing the game.
I thought you were gonna do one of these.
Your hosts are Jay and Alan.
And when was the last time 80,000 people showed up to see a kid do a chemistry experiment?
You play football like a Gennaro played football.
And Brian.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
And Lindsay.
My favorite scene. I don't know what a hokey is, but God is one of them. Go Virginia Tech.
Whichever one starts. Whichever ones don't, we'll back them up. Period. Cut and dry.
Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it.
I can tell you how they feel about it. They don't like it. It's a lack of respect. It's not doing your homework and paying attention to what reality is.
Now, let's get to the breakdown.
Looks to me like they're coming up with a plan.
Hello, you play to win the game.
It's time for the Gridiron Breakdown. I'm Jay.
I'm Alan.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Lindsay.
And we are glad to be back here with you to talk about Week 3 for college football and Week 2 of the NFL. It's episode 4 of our 2020 season, and we're really excited you have joined us. Whether you're joining us live on Facebook, you're listening to the podcast on any of our podcast affiliates, or you're watching this on YouTube, we appreciate you being a part of the show. And boy, gang, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to do, to go through here, but we definitely need to take a look back at last week's college football and NFL action. And I want to start by throwing some real respect to the Fun Belt. The Sun Belt went 3-0 against the Big 12. Big 12 is supposed to be one of the Power Five. And once again, the Big 12 proves to us that it's really Oklahoma and Texas and everybody else. At one point, y'all, Coastal Carolina had a 28-point lead on Kansas. In what world is that okay?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Kansas hadn't been good for a long time, regardless of having Les Miles. Jay, I do want to correct you. Big 12 has been Oklahoma, and Texas has pretended to be there for the last 10 years or so.
Fair.
I think they're back. I think they're still under construction. I think they got to get the crane out of the way.
Fair enough. Brian, Lindsay, what's up with the Big 12? Or better yet, what's up with the Sun Belt? Because you guys are the ones that pick these things, especially you, Lindsay.
I know. I was like, look, I told you Iowa would blow it. I just, I said last week, they always blow the games that are supposed to be easy to win, and they didn't let me down. So.
Yeah, Iowa State comes up very small, and you don't want them to. That's for sure. So, not to be the only ones, though, that didn't exactly come out of the gate looking great. Once again, I believed the hype that Florida State had learned how to do offensive line. And once again, Brian, your pick was right. I was incredibly wrong. Georgia Tech played as horrible a game as you can, threw a ton of picks, missed a million field goals, and still found a way to win. Kind of like our Titans, somehow.
Well, especially if you miss all those kicks. But, I don't know. I just went with Georgia Tech because I don't think that anything Florida State has done since Brad Johnson left has been worthy of talking about.
Wow, that's been a long time ago.
That's a long time ago, folks.
That's like, wow.
Jay, let me ask you, whose offensive line played worse, Syracuse or Florida State?
Dude, that is really hard to say. I'm going to be talking about Syracuse's line a little bit later on. Sneak, hint. But, yeah, they did not have a great outing either against the Tar Heels and the slop in the rain. So,
but the Syracuse play was expected, right? I mean, we all knew they were going to suck it up going into that game.
Yeah.
The Florida State one was the shocker.
A little bit. I mean, I guess I didn't think they'd be great. I just thought they would, actually be. But anyway, they fell apart completely. College football, though, it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, we can't go without mentioning watching Trevor Lawrence put on a show for the 2.5 quarters he got to play against Wake Forest. I mean, is there any doubt that guy's the number one pick going forward if you're going to pick a quarterback?
There's no doubt in that. I will say Spencer Rattler looked really good. I know they were playing Missouri, nobody state, but Spencer Rattler, I think he was 7 of 7 for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first 14 minutes of the game.
That's Bobby Petrino's Missouri State team that he was whacking, by the way. So to be fair, yeah, he did look good against a high school, but yeah, that was pretty good. I will say at least Trevor had to play college team. The funniest thing I saw at the end of that was the Wake Forest coach said, "Well, we outscored them 13-3 there in the last 10 minutes." And so I thought, well, way to be positive, coach, because they got drugged up and down the field. And then the NFL happened. The Thursday night game was. Kansas City just mashing their will against Houston. And then we had all the Sunday games. And I just want to get y'all's impression of things that went down on Sunday, because we had a lot of text floating around and talking about stuff as it was happening. But it was an interesting weekend of football.
Man, I mean, it was better than it should have been, given the fact that there was no preseason. There was no mini camps. There was no OTAs. There was pretty much nothing. They were given a few weeks to get ready for these games. But in certain aspects, you saw that they missed that time. In other aspects, you're like, wow, I can't believe that people are actually hitting as hard as they are. Defenses looked a lot better than they should have on Sunday. And then, Godskowski for the Titans. I mean, Mr. Reliable can't hit a damn thing all game. I mean, he missed 3 field goals and an extra point, and yet coach had enough. I don't know if he felt very secure putting him out there with 20 seconds to go, but he did it, and luckily he made the field goal to win the game. But my God, that's like watching Blair Walsh kick footballs. It's just awful. So yeah, it was interesting a week. Some teams you thought were going to do good, did good. Other teams kind of crapped the bed.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. Lindsay, where's my Tampa Bay offense? What happened?
I don't know. I got nothing on Tampa Bay. I will say the Washington football team performed way better than expected. Shout out to my Hokies, Logan the Sledgehammer Thomas and Tyrod Taylor. I'm still cautious. I've never liked the Washington team despite my proximity, but cautiously optimistic that maybe they'll be a little better than we thought they would.
Yeah, we got to give shout outs to Washington, Arizona, and particularly the Jacksonville Jaguars, who Gardner Minshew pretty much said, tank some of this, and went 19-20 and threw for a bunch of touchdowns against Indianapolis. And as my friend Josh Hathaway, Gridiron Breakdown alumnus, said, well, Phillip Rivers turned into a turnover machine again.
Well, he did what Phillip Rivers does. He turns the ball over late in the game. Some of the takeaways I had is, first of all the halftime tweets from the Philadelphia-Washington game did not age particularly well. Also, 12 up in Green Bay looks a little angry, and if he keeps that fire going, the NFL may want to watch out. And Tampa Bay, here's the thing. Brady made some mistakes, but they also fumbled a kickoff. They jumped off sides on a 4th and 2. I mean, they made a bunch of mistakes that New England doesn't make because Bill Belichick wills it not to happen. So now he's learning what it's like to play on a team that is not the New England Patriots.
Well, and New Orleans showed up too.
Yeah.
They had a solid defense. I mean, Bucs made, like you said, a lot of mistakes, but New Orleans took advantage of them for sure.
Oh, completely.
They did. I was not overly impressed with how Breeze played, though.
No, 106 yards, I think was his line. That's not Breeze.
Yeah, he's definitely still reeling. But you know what? They cashed in when they needed to and made it happen. Same goes with Pittsburgh on Monday night against New York. I mean, New York was doing okay there for about a quarter and a half, and then it just melted apart because they're still not quite there like we had talked about last week. And the Steelers got it done. So lots of fun there. So I guess it's time to, before we get into this week's action, to go over the picks from last week. So we all had a rough time with the NFL. We're just going to put it out. We all went 1-3. because we picked the exact same the whole time. So we vary that up. Maybe we get a little different. Here's the 4 games we picked. Brian, you went 6-4 overall, so you're still in the lead at 12-5 on the year. Congratulations.
Wow.
Lindsay, you went 5-5 last week, 10-7 on the year. Alan, 5-5 as well, 10-7 on the year. But we're going to put Lindsay the notch ahead because she called that Louisiana monster upset on Iowa State just for a little bit. And, yours truly has started by far in 12 years of doing this show, the worst I have ever done picking on the show. Went 4-6 last week. I'm 8-9. I got to turn this around or somebody's going to start calling me Pat 40 because my picks are that bad. Like, I've got to start fixing this, but we'll see as we get into the featured games what we do. Not going to lie, gang, it's a slim pickings week on featured games. Again, we thought we had some real juicy ones. We had Army BYU, and then that got postponed for COVID. And then we had Virginia Tech. We got the Virginia Tech ringer here. Hate Week was on. And then, no, it wasn't. So we have come up with what we think are 3 really interesting college football games to talk about. And then Brian does have a good NFL game, and then we'll get into our lightning round. So, Lindsay, since technically you're going to start us off this week because you're technically ahead of Alan on that Louisiana upset, you've got the Miami, Florida Hurricanes taking on Louisville, number 17 versus number 18. This is the 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern ABC game Saturday night. Tell us all about it.
All right. Well, I love to hate Miami so much, but they did show up last week, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I said UAB would take them down, and I was wrong. So happy to admit that. You and I
wear that badge together, yes. So
you know what? That's fine. It is what it is. Miami surprised me. King played a pretty solid game as QB. His running game is on. His passing was sloppy. In his defense, he hasn't played in a game for about a year. I think it was like September last year, or it was 4th week last year that he played last. So, he's still blowing some of the dust off. I get that. So he may be on. I mean, Miami's got some solid running backs as well, and they have a lot of depth. So their star running back Harris, who can just plow through defense, he's got some backup. So if he needs a little breather, if he needs to stay fresh, he's got some people who can take over for him as he needs to. But Miami's running game was on point. On the other side, Louisville, also star quarterback in Cunningham, put on a show last week against WKU, throwing 343 yards and 3 touchdowns with 24 rushing yards and score just sprinkled on top. So it's definitely going to be a clash of some star quarterbacks. So it should be a pretty interesting game to watch. Miami's pass rush is definitely going to need to up their game against Cunningham if they want to put any pressure on Louisville at all. And their run defenses, or Louisville's run defense, is going to probably have a rough go keeping King at bay. So all of that being said, Miami took the Cardinals down last year, 52-17. I think it's going to be a lot closer this year. I think it will be fun to watch with those 2 QBs and showcasing their talents head to head. Hopefully it'll be a good game. Both teams have a decent depth chart, as I said. And all that being said, as much as I hate to say it, it's killing me to say it. I think I've got Miami winning this one. I think it's still going to be a close match, though, 24-21.
Good on you to not give into the hate and pick it objectively. Okay, Brian, defend your picks title. You get to go next. What do you think, Miami, Louisville?
Give me Louisville at home, 28-21.
All right, 28-21.
I hope you're right.
Alan, what do you say?
Well, here's the thing. Miami looked like the mess I expected them to be last week. UAB just got tired in the 4th quarter and couldn't stop the run late in the game. Mikael Cunningham played fantastic against Western Kentucky. And King, I thought, actually did not play well at all from everything I've seen. I like Louisville. I think they got the better quarterback. I think they have the better offensive line. I like Louisville 34-17.
I'm going to say this, Lindsay, you're right. Louisville's rush defense is going to have their hands full because Rhett Lashley and Miami are going to throw everything they can at them. The problem is it's not going to be enough because their defense cannot stop what Louisville does on offense. I think you could see a bit of a pinball game here, a lot of points going back and forth, but I like the Cardinal to sweep away and get this one late. I think they're going to get it 44-34. So three of us are liking the Cardinal. Lindsay, the Miami hater, is going out and picking the Hurricanes. So.
See, it's a win-win for me because if Miami wins, I'm happy because I picked them. But if they lose, I'm also happy because it's Miami.
Exactly. All right, Alan, well, you are up next, and you've got everybody's people's 2017 national champion, number 14 ranked UCF Knights, under construction forever down in the Triangle of Florida, on the road to take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who somehow or another are 1-0 after beating Florida State. That's the 2:30 Central, 3:30 p.m. ABC game, midday. Tell us all about it.
Well, UCF is going to attempt to go for another one of those mythical national championships, which will give them exactly as many national championships in the last 40 years Georgia has. UCF brings back Dylan Gabriel, who started 12 games last year as a freshman. He passed for 3,600 yards and 29 touchdowns and only threw 4 interceptions. He really worked well in that Josh Heupel offense. They have a great set of wide receivers. Trey Nixon comes back. He had 17 yards per catch last year with 7 touchdowns. Marlon Williamson only had 51 catches last year. And then on top of that, you got the Western Kentucky transfer Jacob Harris, who had averaged 24 yards a catch last year. So they have a talented group of receivers. They have 3 starters back on the offensive line, along with a grad transfer or just a transfer from Tennessee, who's going to slot in at tackle. They do running back by committee. They have Otis Not That Anderson, who had 700 yards and 5 touchdowns, and then Thompson and McRae pitched in another 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. Their offense is really solid. Last year, they were second in scoring behind LSU and they were second in yards and 5th in scoring. So they really got it done last year. The UCF defense was actually, ranked 3rd in pass efficiency last year. They led the nation in tackles for losses. Richie Garant and Antoine Collier are beasts at the safety position. They really lock down opposing running games coming into the box, and really it's hard to beat them over the top as well. They have some questions at corners. Tay Godwin, he opted out, and Brandon Moore is back after missing most of the season with an injury. The secondary is a key to this defense. For the UCF defense, so keep an eye on Eric Mitchell at linebacker. He had a solid year last year. They're really expecting big things out of him anchoring the middle of that defense. On the flip side, Georgia Tech, the team that was picked to finish last in the ACC preseason poll, got a big upset victory over FSU. And that FSU team is going to take a bunch of lumps this year with the way that offensive line played. Jeff Sims was the first freshman to start an opener for Tech since Reggie Ball in 2003, and he is actually the first freshman quarterback to win his opener for Tech in their history. He played well, 277 passing yards, a touchdown. He led the team in rushing yards with 64. And Jay, you know how I like to pull off those interesting stats. Mm-hmm. So this is a good one. You'll like this one. Jeff Sims had the most pass completions by a Georgia Tech quarterback in 17 years with 24 completions.
Yes, because he's been running the triple option. They probably didn't complete 24 passes in a season.
I just look for those little nuggets, man.
Yeah.
But they played pretty well, and I mean FSU's defense has a lot of talent. I don't know that they pulled it all together, but they have a lot of talented skill players there, and they really moved the ball well. And they turned the ball over. But as a freshman in his first game, it's a different season. But I like the way the Tech offense had played. The Tech defense held FSU to 307 yards and forced 3 turnovers. The defensive end Curtis Rhynes had 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He really treated the FSU line like a turnstile. That brings me to the question of FSU offensive line was pretty bad. They may be worse than Syracuse. It's pretty darn close. But Tech was able to get pressure on Blackman all day and just stymied the FSU offense. On a side note, Tech had 2 field goals and an extra point block. They have a true freshman kicker. He did manage to nail the game-winning kick there at the end, but that was kind of dicey. So this is what I see this game. Georgia Tech's played one game. UCF hasn't. I think UCF will jump out to a pretty big lead. I think they'll get gassed in the third quarter. I think Tech comes back, makes it close, but I think UCF pulls it out. I think UCF is a more talented team than FSU. I like UCF 34-31.
All right, so you're picking the Knights. Brian, what say you?
I got to go with UCF as well. I'm not going to ride the Georgia Tech train this week. So I'm going to go UCF, and I don't think it's going to be as close as Allen. So I'm going to say 35-17.
All right, Lindsay, what about you?
I had UCF 34-20.
All right. I'm going to make it 4 for 4. I like the Knights here as well. I think Dylan Gabriel, that offense is just going to be too much, even though they haven't played a game. I actually think it's going to go reverse, though. I think Tech will come out and get 10 points or so on the board, and then UCF's talent is going to take over. They're just a more talented team, and they've been in that system longer. Give me UCF to win, and UCF Twitter can go insane afterward. But, yeah, we're all picking the Knights to win that one. Well, it's my turn for featured game. And, I feel a little weird here. I feel like I'm wearing my buddy Matt Presto's jersey here from Into the Script, the Pitt podcast. You can check them out if you want a real deep dive into this game. But I'm going to talk about Syracuse taking on number 25, Pitt. That's the 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon ACC network game. Or the morning burner game, if you want to call it. So last, game, Syracuse hung around with UNC for a lot longer than they probably should have, but UNC turned the gas on in the fourth quarter. They ended up beating them 31-6. It was never that close, honestly. It was just UNC kept shooting their own toes off and couldn't get anything going on offense. Syracuse never really threatened them. Meanwhile, Pitt walloped Austin Peay 55-0. I mean, that's awesome, but also it's just Austin Peay. So let's kind of put it in perspective. For Syracuse, they better hope they can figure out offensive line really quick, because last year Tommy DeVito got sacked like 39 times. That last week he got sacked 7. Ton of pressures, threw a pick, never got the pass game on track. Again, like 112 yards passing, only had about 12 yards rushing. They couldn't get anything going on offense for Syracuse. Going up against Pitt's defensive line, that's going to be a problem, because Rashad Weaver, Patrick Jones, Deslin Alexander, those guys are the ones that are going to come and bring the heat on him every time. For Pitt on offense, Kenny Pickett came out and played the game that everybody's expecting him to play all the time. And he ran the ball well. He threw the ball with a ton of accuracy. He did it against an FCS opponent, but that's what you're supposed to do, right? He looked sharp. If he can keep that up, and then if they can keep him clean, moreover, keep Syracuse out of his backfield, he can get things going, because they've got a 2 running back punch in Vincent Davis and Israel Apakanda that are going to be keys for them scoring. Syracuse's key on defense is their 2 linebackers. Stephon Thompson, Jeff Canton-Arku are guys that are going to have to keep everything in front of them and really contain that run game and not let Pickett get on the edges and work, because he's really good rolling out of the pocket, throwing on the run, running that zone read stuff to the outside. For Syracuse, they've got on defense, they've got to put pressure and pinch inside all the time. And they were doing a pretty good job of that on Sam Howell, but when he had time in a clean pocket, he picked him apart. If they do that again, Pitt's receivers will do the same, because their DBs are not good. They just can't hang in space with guys that have got speed. Believe it or not, Pitt actually has speed on the outside. Pitt's done really good against Syracuse in recent history. They're a 21-point favorite in this game. That's a lot of points. And we don't do point spreads here, but something about this just tells me this Syracuse team is still trying to figure out what they are, trying to get it together, and having to go on the road 2 weeks in a row. I know there's no home field advantage, but you still got to travel and deal with all that stuff. Something tells me they're not going to stand much of a chance against Pitt's D-line. It's really that Pitt D-line against the Syracuse O-line that I think is the real mismatch. So I'm picking Pitt, and I'm picking them big. I'll take Pitt 34-10 over Syracuse. Brian, what about you?
I'm going to go with Pitt here too, and I got it 42-10.
All right. Lindsay.
I have Pitt too, but I do not trust that point spread. Syracuse isn't good, but I just don't think it's going to be a blowout. They're not Austin Peay. They're not good, but they're not Austin Peay. So I do have Pitt taking them 35-21.
All right, Alan.
Syracuse is bad, but historically on the breakdown, Pitt has always found a way to like stymie me, and they always find a way to lose games that they shouldn't. I don't think that matters here. I think this is an ugly game. I like Pitt to pull away late 24-13.
All right. So you got it lower scoring, a little bit uglier, but we all like the Pitt Panthers in this one. Well, Brian, it's time for the NFL featured game of the week, and it's going to be the Sunday night game. The New England Patriots, the Cam Patriots, if you will, on the road to take on the Seattle Seahawks, the 7:20, 8:20 kick on NBC. Break it down for us, man.
Well, looking at the slate of games we have this week, man, could they have picked more boring games or not? I mean, without going back to a Packer game or a Vikings game, looking up and down here, I saw nothing of interest. Is starting with tomorrow's Cincinnati-Cleveland game. I mean, barf, right? So I looked and I saw, well, originally I think I thought I was going to go with a different game, but let's be honest, this is the only game worth watching this whole weekend other than your home teams, right? So New England, Cam Newton takes over the team. He's the quarterback. He's the guy. What's that mean for you? It means that all New England running backs ain't worth shit. Pardon my language. Throw them out because they ain't going to do anything. Last week, Cam Newton, he didn't throw for much. He didn't do a whole lot of passing. So now the wide receivers boil down to not a whole lot either. But he did lead the team in running, 75 yards. Had the most runs of all the backs, just crazy. He did what Cam Newton does. He finds a way to get in the end zone by himself because he can rely on himself. And so he did. He won the game. It's a totally different look in New England than what you've been used to since 2001 and probably even back further than that with the Bledsoe era. But, all that matters is the W at the end of the game, right? And he got the W for his team. Now, contrast that, you go to Seattle and you have Russell Wilson, and he throws for almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, does some work with his legs, gets everyone involved. Their defense looks pretty good again. Totally different team. So it comes down to this, head-to-head, these two have only played 18 times previous to this. They're 9-9 against each other. They split the series. They have only played 5 games in the last, I don't know how many years, probably since Brady took over as quarterback. And, so most of those games took place in the 80s and the early 90s. Looking at the tail of the tape, the defense for the Carolina Panthers is ranked number 4 against the rush. Again, did I say Carolina Panthers? I'm going back to Cam's old team. My bad. The Seattle Seahawks are ranked number 4 against the rush. So what does that do in this game? That I think hurts New England a little bit because that's all Cam really can do is rush. I'm sorry, Jay. I don't mean to be ripping on your boy, but let's face it. He's not been known as a pocket passer. He's a guy who scrambles and does things with his legs. And you're playing against the number 4 defense against the rush. And I know it's only 1 week into this season, but let's face it, Seattle's always been pretty good in that area. That may spell some trouble for the New England Patriots going in here. New England, on the other hand, is number 9 against the rush. So again, that could take Chris Carson out a little bit in this game and, cause Russell Wilson to throw a little more. I don't think Russell Wilson has a problem with that, though, as we saw last week. The pass defense for the New England Patriots is currently ranked number 6. So that's an interesting statistic. The pass defense for Seattle is 32nd, dead last. So Cam better learn how to throw some passes to Julian Edelman because that's the way they're going to win this game. But I got to say, I'm going with Seattle at home, even without the 12th man, winning this game. And I'm going to go 33-17.
All right. Lindsay, what do you say?
I actually have New England with the upset at 28-24. I think Belichick can pull it off. We'll see.
Interesting. Alan.
So Jay, New England played Miami, who is still garbage, by the way. They must be tanking for somebody else.
Oh, ouch.
and they didn't look very good. And here's the thing. Seattle played well, and they gave up some passing yards, but they dominated that game. And Atlanta was trying to come back and was just throwing the ball. and nobody New England has is Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley. They don't have anybody of that caliber. Russell Wilson is the real deal. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He is going to light up that defense. I am interested in the DK Metcalf, Stephon Gilmore matchup. That'll be a fun one to watch. I like Seattle big, 38-14.
I just want to know who's going to try to rip Cam's chain off this week, because that didn't go so well for the Miami defense. Look, you're exactly right. And I love Cam. You know, I'm a big Cam fan, but I'm going to tell you, Russell Wilson is like my son or something, because I will defend that dude forever. Okay. Yeah. Say what you want, Virginia Tech. I like my, I have to defend Cam. We paid for him. All right. I mean, good grief.
Right.
But best money ever spent on a national championship. But anyway,
I
love Russell Wilson. I love Russell Wilson when he was at NC State, when he was at Wisconsin. I'm all about Russell Wilson. I think he's great. I do think it's neat to hear Pete Carroll was coaching the Patriots when they played the Seahawks back in the 90s. So he's now gets to flip the other side of the coin. And of course, he's on the Super Bowl side of this. Look, I think what Cam's doing with the Patriots is going to be good. I do still think they're going to win that division. They look solid on defense and stuff. But what they're going to run into is what I think is the NFC's buzzsaw this year. I think Seattle's a total package, and I think it's going to get nasty fast. And Cam's going to be mad at the end of this game because Russell Wilson's going to light his team up. Give me Seattle 34, New England 10 in this one. I think it's a total.
Now, let me ask you, Jay, is Cam going to wear something super ridiculous to the post-game presser again?
Dude, is water wet? Dude, is water wet? Yes, absolutely. Probably in a color none of us knew existed. Because that is Cam, and he is like the, you remember like the 64 crayons that you used to get, and you thought those were special, right? And there was always that one kid that had like the 128. That's where Cam's wardrobe comes from, is the 128 crayon. Anyway, so all right, so we're that's our NFL feature game of the week. Time to get into the lightning round. We got 3 college games, 3 NFL games here on the slate, and we finally get to break the cap off of the Big 12. Tulsa is on the road, opening up this week, taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. This is an 11 a.m., 12 noon ESPN kick. Brian, you lead us off.
Oklahoma State's gonna just take this one, and it won't be pretty. I'm going 55-20.
All right, Lindsay.
Yeah, I have Oklahoma State too. Tulsa has a terrible defense, so I have a higher scoring game as well, 48-21.
Alan.
Jay, Oklahoma State has Tylan Wallace, who's actually one of the best receivers in the country. They have Chuba Hubbard, who was fantastic last year. This is going to be a beatdown. Give me the Cowpokes 55-10.
I like the Cowboys in this one too, but I'm talking serious tilt-a-whirl. They're going to get this one 70-28. They're putting points on the board out there in Stillwater. We come back to the ACC. Boston College on the road to take on Duke. That's an 11 a.m., 12 noon ESPN 3 game if you can get it. Brian, who you got?
The Doug Flutie's not playing in this one, right?
No. Not even his grandkid.
All right. I'll still go Boston College here. I'll take Boston College, and I'll take it, let's say 24-17.
All right, Lindsay.
I've actually got Duke playing. I think they did a lot better than I expected against Notre Dame. They might have been super hyped, so I might be overreaching here, but I have Duke winning against Boston College 21-17.
Alan.
Yeah, I mean, Duke really did play well against Notre Dame, better than I expected. And here's the thing. Duke has played a game. Boston College hasn't. I still think that makes a difference this early in the season. I like Duke 24-13.
Alan, you and I are in agreement. That's exactly what I was going to say. Duke's played. I think that matters. And they played real competition. Boston College is going to be real rusty. Give me Duke 20-13 over Boston College. Last one, Houston taking on Baylor. Look, bravo to these two schools. Baylor had a team cancel because of COVID. Houston lost the Memphis game because of COVID. And in the span of last Saturday, they got on the phone. They scheduled. You don't need 10 years to schedule each other. You just need 10 hours. All right. And some good phone lines. So Houston's on the road taking on Baylor. This is the 11 a.m., 12 noon, the big noon kickoff on Fox. Brian.
I got to go with the Baylor team here. I think that I just know their name more than Houston, and I think they've been better over the years. So I'm going Baylor. For a score, let's go with 17-10.
All right. Lindsay.
So Big 12 doesn't have the best track record right now, but And Baylor's team has basically been gutted with new coaching staff, new defense, and no time to really figure it all out. Houston defense isn't much to write home about either, but I've got Baylor winning 31-21.
All right, Alan.
Well, Baylor's breaking in a first-year head coach. Matt Rule is off coaching in Carolina, and it falls to Dave Aranda, who's had no spring practice, very little fall camp, so to speak. And you got Dana Holgorsen on the other side, who always finds a way to score points. I like Houston in the upset, 31-30.
You know what? You stole it from me, man, because here's the thing. Aranda's new. They hadn't put in any of that system. They got a bunch of new dudes. Don't know what's happening. Dana Holgersen's guys know what they're going to be. They don't have much defense. They're just going to try to score a lot of points. And I think they're going to be able to do it. I'm taking Houston too. I think the Big 12 loses another one this week. Give me Houston 44, Baylor 30 in this one. Let's flip over to
Jay. I do need to kick the Big 12 around just a little bit more before we move.
Oh, please.
We talked about them losing those 3 games to the Fun Belt.
Yeah.
People may have not seen that Texas Tech beat Houston Baptist 35-33. Houston Baptist missed a 2-point conversion late in the fourth quarter and had over 600 yards of total offense. No. I didn't even know there was a team called Houston Baptist.
Because 6 years ago there wasn't.
So the Big 12, especially defensively, is garbage, and it is going to be extremely bad this year. And Spencer Rattler and Oklahoma are going to put up like 1 billion points before the season's over.
They're going to have to if they want to get any consideration. That's for sure. You know what? I saw that Houston Baptist thing, and literally I thought, is ESPN running softball league scores now? I had no idea. I was like, that cannot be a real thing. And sure enough, it was. I was like, oh, wow. So, yeah, it's pretty bad. It's going to be bad in the Big 12. But, hey, props. You're playing. So let's move over to the NFL, to a couple of teams that none of us really expected to win last week. We open up Washington, the Washington Football Club, on the road to take on the Arizona Cardinals. This is the 3:05, 4:05 Fox game. None of the 11 o'clock games. Guys, you go mow the lawn, do something else on the 11 o'clock games this week. They're just, like Brian said, they're bad. Washington's at Arizona, though. Brian, who you got?
Man, I got to go with the home team here, and Kyler Murray. I got to take him over Washington. I don't believe the hype in Washington yet. They may have pulled off a nice win last week, but give me Arizona. I think that 2 years under his belt is helping him, or 1 year under the belt in his second year now for Kyler Murray. I'll take him, and I'll go 24-21.
All right, Lindsay.
I'm with Brian. I don't trust Washington football team and their performance quite yet. So I still think it's going to be a fairly easy win for Arizona. I have them winning 28-17.
Alan.
Yeah, I thought we were trying not to pick all these games the same, but here's the thing. DeAndre Hopkins makes a huge difference for Arizona. I mean, he went off last week. He has become Kyler Murray's go-to target, and considering that Larry Fitzgerald – well, I think Larry Fitzgerald's collecting Social Security this year. So, I mean, it's very helpful. I think Arizona is really good. They already faced a good defensive line in San Francisco. While Washington has a good pass rush, they played the Eagles last week, whose offensive line has been just a cavalcade of guests with injuries and opt-outs. So I like Arizona 28-17.
Yeah, I'm going to make it 4 for 4 here too, gang. Arizona's just too much more together than what Washington is. Washington won that game, and no doubt about it, but they won it on the back of the fact that Carson Wentz turned into Phillip Rivers and just started turning the ball over and being a moron. And then their defense just fell apart against that running game. I don't think that'll happen for Arizona. I think the investments they've made on defense are coming through. And, at one point, DeAndre Hopkins had more catches than the entire receiving crew from the Texans did last week by himself. So that tells you how that's going to work out. I think they're going to win. I like them 31-14 over Washington. Baltimore on the road to take on those Houston Texans. Can Lamar Jackson and the Ravens keep up the show, or did the Texans rebound? Brian.
Look, man, the Baltimore Ravens are right up there with Kansas City as the best team in the AFC right now. Houston is a train wreck. I feel bad for Deshaun Watson because they are wasting his talent over there right now. And I don't know what Bill O'Brien is thinking. I think, Alan, you said it best last week when you say he's a good coach, but he's a terrible GM, and he's gutted himself as a coach. I don't get it. I cannot in good conscience pick Houston to win anything right now until they show me something over there. And right now they haven't shown me anything. Baltimore is a force in the AFC. I think Baltimore, Kansas City is your AFC title game this year. I'm going Baltimore easily in this game. I'll pick them 31-10.
All right, Lindsay.
Very close scoring. I had Baltimore 31-17. I don't think it's going to be an issue for them.
Alan, what about you?
You know, Baltimore looked pretty good against the hapless Browns. For a minute, I thought I was watching the Globetrotters play the Washington Generals. Lamar is locked in, guys. His passing looks like it's gotten a little bit better. He can run. They added J.K. Dobbins. I like Baltimore 31-17.
I like Baltimore in this one. You guys ever seen that thing like you used to could hang on your wall and you put a can in it and crush it? That's what it's going to look like when the Baltimore defense gets a hold of the excuse that is the Houston Texans offensive line. Poor Deshaun Watson is going to be running for his life all game, and I don't think their defense, as aggressive and as fast as they are, is going to be able to hold up against that running game because Kansas City ran for almost 175 yards on them. Kansas City doesn't run the ball, and they did that. Baltimore's going to drop 200 on them, I think. I like the Ravens here pretty big, 34-13. We ended up with the Monday night football game. The New Orleans Saints head out to the desert where a lot of problems are buried to deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is the Monday night game on ESPN. Brian, take us home with this one.
Well, let me tell you about one of those problems, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. They should be buried. They got a win this last week, but don't get used to it, guys. Come on, let's be serious here. Drew Brees looked terrible. I think we can all agree on that. But he's got Alvin Kamara sitting there, and Alvin Kamara makes stuff happen. Las Vegas kicking off in their new stadium, loving it. Oh, life is good. They stink. I'm going with New Orleans. I'm going with a washing of the Vegas Raiders. I'm going to say 42-13.
Ooh, unwatchable. Okay, Lindsay, what do you got?
I have New Orleans too, but much closer game than that, 24-21.
All right, Alan, how about you?
Well, you know, New Orleans didn't look great. Drew Brees struggled. Michael Thomas isn't going to play in this game. So basically their offense is Alvin Kamara. I think Josh Jacobs outduels Alvin Kamara at the running back. Give me Vegas 31-24.
Wow, you like Vegas in the home opener to take it out. Well, I got to tell you here, that not having Michael Thomas is a big deal. Like that matters because that eliminates a matchup problem for the Raiders. They really only got one corner that can cover him, and he ain't gonna do a good job of it anyway. For Vegas to win this game, they're gonna have to run the ball, be 2 and 3 tight ends, and really pack it. And I don't think they're gonna be able to keep that up for the entire game, because Brees will dink and dunk it all over the field, move up and down. They'll get a turnover, because New Orleans has got DBs that can get that done, turn a short field into a quick score. And if the game gets put into Derek Carr's hands, I'm just not sold that it's going to be there. But I think it's close. I think we're actually going to have a good game that'll be worth staying up for to check it out on the East Coast. So give me New Orleans in this one to edge Las Vegas, but I'll take them 26-24. I think we get a close game on Monday Night Football. Well, last week, Alan broke precedent with the Danger Zone by picking differently on a game that he picked on the show the other way. So it's the ultimate hedged bet of all time. So you picked UAB in the upset after you'd already picked Miami to win. You got the pick right, but Danger Zone went down. But this week, you're doing something even newer. Alan, what's going on in the Danger Zone?
Well, Jay, the Danger Zone is going to take us not too far from home. You know, we're not going to go too far from Miramar, Florida. We're going to go down the road to Tampa, Florida, where the Carolina Panthers come to town to take on Tom Brady and the Patriots. I mean, yeah, the Patriots, yeah. You say that for 20 years, you get used to it, I guess. The Buccaneers. Guys, you know, TB12 didn't look good last week. Their offense looked out of sync. They didn't run the ball particularly well. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to go off this week. I think Teddy Bridgewater gets enough. And I think TB12 continues to make a streak. By the way, he's thrown a pick six in 3 straight games, which is one shy of the NFL record. Just FYI for TB12.
Let him have that one too, huh?
So I like Carolina 31-14 over the Buccaneers.
Ooh, not only do you like Carolina in the upset, you like them to blow out the Buccaneers. Wow. If they do that, man, they're going to start wearing the creamsicles and putting bags on their non-existent fans' heads in the stands. Because holy cow, wow. Well, I like it. It's a good, interesting slate of picks. We picked some eclectic games, shall we say, for the week. Next week, though, we get to add the SEC, which I know Brian is really looking forward to because he's such a big fan of the league, and so is Lindsay. So we'll have to. Alan will break out his collection of championship T-shirts, some of which are actually legitimate.
Go Dogs!
So, you're gonna get fired up the show for saying that. But anyway, but yeah, we'll be back next week to add in some SEC flavor. And we should say the big news of the week, though, okay? The Big Ten is going to play football. They're going to kick it off the end of October, 8 straight games, conference championship, and then right into the playoffs. Real quick, around the horn, what do you think? The Big Ten deciding, nope, we are going to play this fall.
This is what happens when parents, coaches, and players all tell you to go blank yourselves. That's what happens. And then they say, and if you don't, we're going to sue the crap out of you. And then they all go, ah. Now, October 24th, really? I mean, these guys had spring practices. These guys did have preseason type activities going on before they decided to call it all off. It's not like they're that rusty that they need a whole month and a half to get ready for this season. They should have started this October 11th. They could have gotten all 10 games in with no bye weeks and had a full slate of games. Now, do you really take Ohio State as a real threat in the college championships? I don't, because they're going to only play 8 games and it's only going to be against conference, and they'll probably cherry pick the games and, play Rutgers and Maryland.
You're not saying a conference would front load a schedule for somebody.
What? What? Yeah, I'm happy to see them in this coming back and playing, because I think the whole idea of having a spring league was absolutely pathetic and stupid, and they might as well just not have a season if they're going to do that. So I'm happy to see them coming back. Gives us my son and I something to look forward to on Saturdays to watch the Gophers games. Yeah, they had a good chance this year of at least winning the West, but oh well, now it doesn't even really matter. I don't think we'll see. I'm glad they're playing. They should never have canceled it in the first place. They got scared. We live in a state that follows the lead of the other parties, and they went on the Democrat side on this one, and that's what we did. So whatever. They all wanted to play. They're ready to go. I don't get it.
Alan, Lindsay, what about y'all?
We'll see, I guess. I mean, I'm glad they're playing too. I like watching the Big Ten teams. Like, I like that conference. For the most part, fairly enjoyable. I like it more than the SEC. No offense. Just kidding. Take all the offense you want. But with the rankings and everything already out, I'm interested to see what kind of wrench that throws in it once they start playing. I do think it's a better idea than doing the spring football. That was just really confusing and weird. So, the better option, I think, in my opinion, but we'll see how it goes.
Alan, what about you?
I think they're going to need this time to acclimatize, because I imagine once they cancel the season, some of these guys were, ordering Domino's and having calzones and, just going to town like, well, I don't got to work out. I think that's really going to affect them. I think you're going to see some really awful football those first couple of weeks. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it. Let's make no mistake. This is all about dollar bills. This is all about money, about TV money. And they didn't want to be left out, because Ohio State cried that we can win a national championship this year. So let them in. We'll see you in New Orleans, 1st of January. Make your reservations.
Yeah, Ohio State wasn't the only one crying. I mean, they're the ones that could potentially like do well, but Nebraska
Nebraska's
wanted
a big
to
one,
play.
yeah.
Scott Frost came out, so that
Nebraska
was
cried enough to water that corn. That's for sure. So
Hey,
Yeah,
you know who
Nebra-
wasn't crying? Jim Harbaugh in Michigan.
Oh no, yeah, he was. Jim Harbaugh
Yeah,
was
Jim
bitching up
cried.
a storm.
Yeah.
He wrote a nasty gram to his president about the whole thing. He wanted to play. Now Michigan State might have been the one that was kind of like, yeah, okay.
Hey, can
Well,
I
you
go
know,
ahead
I
and say that's a bad idea, by the way, to go out against your president, because that eventually will.
Well,
come
what
back
does
to
he
get
care?
you.
He's got tons of money.
Well, he ain't worried about the money. It's more about does he want to keep working? But yeah,
Oh, he'll
So-
find another
But,
job.
you know, I think if he wants to keep working, he better find a way to beat Ohio State.
Good
right.
luck.
That hadn't happened in a while. So yeah, let's say that real quick. The last thing I want to throw around the horn, and I didn't put this on the sheet, so this is going to be total like fresh reactions off everybody. But we already saw the guy from Southern Miss got fired a week ago after the first game, which was apparently, if you read a little bit more into it, that should have happened at the end of last year, and they just didn't for whatever reason. But now they did. Do you think there are going to be other coaches that are really on the hot seat this year? Or does everybody get a pass because of the strange situations we're in?
I think it really depends on who you are and what your situation is. I think some people, they'll use it as, hey, give him a pass. It's an odd season. But some other people are going to be like, you know what? We wanted him gone. This accrued a year of his salary, his buyouts. Let's get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at you, Gus.
Yeah, no, I really do.
That's all
I
it
agree
is.
with Alan on this. I think it depends on the situation. I think most people are just going to get a pass on this year because nobody could plan for what was going to happen, and nobody can plan for what may happen still. I mean, we may still come down with a team that gets knocked out because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
We have no idea. So I don't think you can look at this. This is an anomaly year, and the same with other sports like baseball. Like this is win the World Series this year, and what does it mean, right? Look at the teams contending right now. The White Sox, are they really as good as they are right now? No, they got off to a really good start, and they're playing good baseball right now. Extrapolate that over 160 games. Are they going to be in the talk for the title? No, probably not. But so it's going to be interesting to see how people treat this year on all sports, on all levels. The only one that can go right now is the NFL, because they just said, screw it, we're going with what we do anyway. And they just skipped the preseason, which, by the way, I agree with some commentary that this afternoon on the NFL Network. This is kind of like a precursor to getting that 18-game season. Look, we don't need mini camps. We don't need OTAs. We don't need a preseason. Let's skip all of that stuff and make it an 18-game season and play it that way. You want to save wear and tear on your bodies. Let's skip all the hard stuff we do. We don't need it. Look how good we play.
Right.
Hey,
We'll
hey,
see.
Brian, I do have to call you out there. You broke the cardinal rule of the gridiron breakdown. We do not mention that sport with the tiny white ball and the wooden stick.
And
Lizzie,
the
you were
wooden
jumping
stick.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I think this is an opportunity for coaches to show and teams to show their adaptability. That being said, I don't think every coach is going to get a pass. Obviously, not every coach has. Fans are still going to be fans. People are still going to call for coaches to get fired when their teams lose stupid games that they should have won, COVID or no COVID. So, I mean, will more people get passes than they should? Yeah, sure. But I think people are still definitely going to call for certain coaches to get the boot.
I think NFL is going to operate business as usual. I think that the usual number will get cut and moved on, from there. College, I do think it'll be a little less, but I think the seal's been broken on it now, and I'm really responding mostly to FSU Twitter, which when Florida State loses a game, there's nothing more entertaining than FSU Twitter to watch the meltdown happen. And I have friends who are FSU fans, and they're more reasonable about it, but even they kind of got caught up in that. We got to get this guy out of here. I'm like, you just ran your last guy out of here after like a year and a half. Like at some point, somebody has to stay. Yeah. So I don't know. That's the talk right now. We'll see how it goes. I mean,
I do have a question for you and Alan, JR, and you too, Lindsay. Thoughts on the Pac-12? Do you think they now feel the pressure to come back as well?
There is news on that they have made some strides in terms of getting clearance to be able to play by like November or something, which I don't know what that would look like or what that would mean, but they are trying to get things cranked back up for teams that want to try to play. Now, there are some of those teams that have said absolutely they are not. Like Utah is out. They've already furloughed their athletic department, basically. So I don't know if they can get it back together, but I know they are attempting to. Your question was, do I think there's pressure to? Sorta, but I don't know that they feel the same amount of pressure that maybe the Big Ten did TV was. What, Alan, Lindsay, what do you guys think?
Well, like I was reading an article and a survey said that in the Midwest and in the Southeast, like 55% of people identify as huge college football fans. That's not the case out West. Hell, half of us on the East Coast don't even know that the Pac-12 exists. I just see the box scores when I wake up on Sunday morning. I think there is pressure. If they had a team that maybe could contend for a title, I think you would see that get pushed, but I just don't see it happening. I'm not sure what it would look like.
Yeah, I think it's way too late. If they're not going to mobilize until November, what's
the point? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess there is a little bit of a point financially for them, to still have games and make a showing, but I mean, they're not going to have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, unless they're just trying to get somebody together enough to play the Rose Bowl game against the Big Ten champ, assuming that even happens, So we'll see. So
hey, I do have a question for you and Brian as Titans fans. I woke up the other day and I'm reading where a guy was drunk and doing donuts and lost control of his car and hit a concrete wall. And I thought, when did the Titans hire Mark Richt? And how did he lose control?
I don't know. I'm glad he was safe after that. Poor choice. And I hope he learns from that. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, man, we got to stop hiring these Georgia guys. He was a Georgia lineman, to be fair. So I mean,
go Dogs.
Yeah. So it did happen. The Titans are probably the only team in the NFL that could put on as poor a kicking display as anybody has in years and still find a way to win.
With a kick.
And do it at like 1:00 in the morning. I woke up to try to see the end of that, y'all. I'm like, why did I wake up to watch this? I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway.
Jay, I have watched the team successfully do that for the last 10 years. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't need to be able to kick a football.
Yeah, I don't know why Alabama kicks ever, especially if you're in Jordan Hare. But that's another story for another day for sure. Well, folks, it's been fun here on the Gridiron Breakdown. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can find more of our episodes on thegridironbreakdown.com. That's where you can find all of our podcasts. Go to YouTube, search for the Gridiron Breakdown. You can subscribe to the show there. Hit the notification bell. You'll see when the video is. Or like the Facebook page, The Gridiron Breakdown. You can join us here live every Wednesday night. We'll be chopping it up and talking football, getting ready as the college football season and NFL pushes forward. So for Brian, Alan, and Lindsay, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to the Gridiron Breakdown.
Thank you for listening to the Gridiron Breakdown.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? I just hope we can win a game.
Follow us on our website, thegridironbreakdown.com, or on Facebook.
We do things around here my way. You understand that? You're going to be stuck in spring all your life, boy. I don't want your life.
Tune in next week for more analysis and opinion from our hosts.
Now, y'all scared to ask another question?
They're not going to keep them off the field tonight.